Have you ever stopped and asked yourself, what does a truly happy retirement look like? It's not just about money or free time. The happiest retirees I've met all share certain choices, quiet realizations, and deeply personal shifts in how they live. Today, we're going to explore 7 powerful things they do differently. Things that might just change how you live the years ahead. 1. They redefine what success means. On their own terms, when you were younger, success probably had a clear definition. Climbing the career ladder, earning more money, buying a house, raising a family, collecting achievements, and being seen as someone important. That's how society teaches us to measure worth. But something remarkable happens when people retire. And I've seen it over and over again in the happiest retirees I've met. They stop measuring success by what's on their resume or their bank statements. They begin to see success not as something you accumulate, but something you feel. A happy retiree once told me, "Success used to mean hitting deadlines. Now it means waking up without an alarm clock and enjoying my morning coffee with no rush." That shift in perspective is life-changing. Redefining success in retirement means allowing yourself to step out of comparison with your younger self, your peers, your neighbors, even your own children. It means letting go of the belief that you need to be productive in the same way you used to be. Productivity becomes less about output and more about inner fulfillment. For many happy retirees, success now looks like peace of mind, time spent with grandkids, good conversations over dinner, a long walk on a sunny morning, health that lets them enjoy small pleasures, the freedom to say yes to what matters and no to what doesn't. Most importantly, they allow themselves to feel worthy without needing to prove anything. They don't chase validation. They embrace contentment. It's not always easy. Some people struggle after retirement because they feel a loss of identity. Who am I if I'm not working? They wonder. That's why this shift is so powerful. It invites you to reconnect with who you truly are beneath the job titles, the achievements, and the roles you've played. To redefine success on your own terms, ask yourself, what makes me feel truly alive now? What do I value most at this stage of my life? What do I want my days to be filled with, not in the eyes of others, but for me? Remember, this chapter isn't about proving anything to the world. It's about coming home to yourself. 2. They let go of old grudges and bitterness. Here's something I've learned after speaking with hundreds of older adults. Bitterness doesn't age well. It hardens. It settles deep into your bones. And over time, it weighs you down more than you realize. That's why the happiest retirees, the ones who smile easily, laugh often, and sleep soundly, have something in common. They've made peace with their past. That doesn't mean everything in their life was perfect. On the contrary, many of them have been through heartbreak, betrayal, failure, and even loss. But instead of clinging to those wounds like armor, they've chosen to let go. Because here's the truth, holding on to resentment doesn't punish the people who hurt you. It punishes you. It steals your joy. It keeps you tied to a pain that no longer serves your life today. Letting go isn't the same as forgetting. It's not about pretending it didn't matter. It's about choosing not to let it have power over your peace anymore. One woman told me, "I carried anger toward my sister for 20 years. We stopped speaking. After I retired, I realized I didn't even remember what started it. I just knew I was tired of being angry." So she picked up the phone. They cried, and slowly they found each other again. Forgiveness, even if it's one-sided, is an act of self-care. You're not excusing bad behavior. You're choosing freedom. Freedom from carrying stories that no longer nourish you. Bitterness is a thief. It takes up space where love, laughter, and joy could live. Letting go might mean writing a letter you never send, saying a quiet goodbye in your heart, choosing not to replay old arguments in your mind, letting yourself stop needing to win a battle that ended long ago. The happiest retirees I know look lighter, and it's not just physical. They've made the choice, and it is a choice, to unburden their hearts. You deserve that lightness too. 3. They design their days. They don't drift through them. Retirement gives you time, a lot of it. But what you do with that time makes all the difference. The happiest retirees don't just let the days happen. They design their days with intention. They don't fill every hour with activity, but they do give each day shape, rhythm, and meaning. When we stop working, we lose the structure that once guided us. No more clocks, no more deadlines, no more meetings. That can feel liberating. Or it can feel like you're lost at sea. The happiest retirees find their anchor by creating small rituals and daily touchpoints. I once asked a retired teacher, "What makes your days feel good?" She said, "I make sure every day has 3 things. Something that gets me moving, something that makes me think, and something that brings me joy." Simple, powerful, repeatable. It could look like a morning walk while listening to music, reading a chapter from a book over tea, calling a friend just to say hello, cooking a new recipe, gardening in the afternoon sun, watching birds outside your window, working on a creative project, saying a prayer, or meditating before bed. The goal isn't to be busy. It's to be awake in your own life. Drifting is when you let each day blur into the next. Designing is when you give each day a heartbeat. Another retiree told me, "I used to live for the weekends. Now I live for moments." That's the key. Retirement isn't about one big trip or a bucket list of achievements. It's about creating a life you don't need a vacation from. Start small. Think of one thing each day that will give you a sense of meaning. Not productivity, just meaning. Then build from there. You don't need to schedule every hour, but having little things to look forward to, small joys you can count on, gives you energy, hope, and purpose. Design your days, even the quiet ones, especially the quiet ones. That's where peace lives. 4. They find joy in solitude, not just in company. One of the most surprising things I've noticed in the happiest retirees is this. They are perfectly comfortable being alone. Not lonely, well, there's a difference, but alone in the best sense of the word. They've learned to find joy, calm, and even energy in moments of solitude. That can come as a surprise. Most of us were raised to believe that happiness means being surrounded by people. Friends, coworkers, family, crowds, action. And yes, connection is vital. But what if we've overlooked the quiet power of just being with ourselves? For some people, retirement brings unexpected silence. No more morning commutes, no busy office noise, no endless to-do list. At first, that silence can feel like a void, even a little scary. But for the happiest retirees, that silence becomes something else. It becomes sacred. They don't just tolerate time alone, they cherish it. They sit with their coffee in the early morning light and listen to the birds without distraction. They go for walks not to get somewhere, but just to be. They read, write, think, or simply look out the window and let their thoughts wander without guilt. This kind of solitude is a gift. It's not forced, it's chosen. In solitude, you begin to hear things you missed before. Your own thoughts, your own breath, your own heart. You realize how much of your life was lived reacting to others. Now you get to live by your own rhythm. One retired woman told me, "I used to think being alone meant I wasn't loved. Now I see it's when I love myself best." That kind of peace doesn't come from the outside. It's built slowly from within. Spending time alone lets you reconnect with parts of yourself that got buried under responsibility. It gives space for creativity. Many people take up painting, writing, sewing, or playing music again. Some start keeping a journal for the first time. Others simply walk, think, pray, or meditate. Solitude helps you process your life. It allows you to reflect not just on what's happened, but on who you've become. It brings clarity and grounding. The happiest retirees also understand that solitude doesn't mean isolation. They still see friends, call family, and stay connected, but they aren't dependent on others for their sense of joy. That's the difference. They've built a kind of inner world that they can always return to, a place where they feel whole, steady, and calm. They don't wait for someone to entertain them. They create their own peace. They don't feel sorry for quiet days. They savor them. They've discovered that their own company can be just as comforting as anyone else's. And perhaps most beautifully, they've realized being alone isn't the absence of love. It's often where self-love finally has room to grow. Number 5, they let themselves be silly again. One of the most refreshing things about getting older, and something the happiest retirees know well, is that you no longer have to take yourself so seriously. You've spent decades being responsible, showing up on time, doing the right thing, worrying about appearances. But now is the time to set all of that down for a while and let yourself just be a little silly again. And that's exactly what they do. The happiest retirees allow themselves to be playful, even goofy, in a way they might not have dared to when they were younger. Not because they're immature, far from it, but because they finally realized something important. Joy is not a luxury. It's essential. They'll sing in the kitchen while making breakfast. They'll wear bright socks just because they feel fun. They'll pull out an old joke that only makes their spouse laugh, but they tell it anyway. They'll make funny faces at their grandkids, or better yet, join them on the floor and color outside the lines. They're not trying to impress anyone anymore. That pressure is gone, and with that pressure gone, something beautiful comes back. Freedom. Freedom to laugh, to dance, to act ridiculous, to try something new and not care one bit if they're any good at it. One man in his 80s told me, "I wore a flamingo shirt to the grocery store last week. I used to care what people thought. Now I hope it made someone smile." That's the spirit. Letting yourself be silly doesn't mean you don't take life seriously. It means you understand that laughter belongs right beside wisdom, that the human heart needs lightness to stay strong. Many of us were told that silliness is for children. But the truth is, children are wise in ways we forget. They know how to live in the moment. They know how to laugh just because something is silly. They know how to find magic in the ordinary. The happiest retirees? They remember how to do that again, and it brings them alive. You don't have to be the funny one or the life of the party, but letting a little playfulness back into your life through music, movement, curiosity, or just being okay with making a fool of yourself now and then lightens your spirit. And here's a secret. It makes you more connected to others too. Joy is contagious. When you let your silly side show, it gives other people permission to loosen up as well. So, yes, sing off key, tell that corny joke, wear that bright hat, join the kids on the dance floor. Let yourself laugh until your cheeks hurt. The world doesn't need more serious people. It needs more people who remember that life was meant to be enjoyed, not just managed. You've earned this joy. Don't hold it back. 6. They tell their stories and make peace with them. There comes a time in life when you stop running forward and begin to look back, not with regret, but with curiosity, with tenderness, and sometimes with deep emotion. The happiest retirees I've met don't avoid this reflection. In fact, they embrace it. They tell their stories. And in doing so, they make peace with them. Because here's the truth. Every life is a story, and yours is worth telling. Some people keep their stories buried, either because they think no one wants to hear them, or because they're still carrying pain they're not ready to face. But happy retirees understand that your story, with all its joys and mistakes, deserves to be heard, even if the only person who listens is you. They write journals. They record voice memos. They make scrapbooks. They sit at the kitchen table and tell stories to their grandkids about back when gas was 29 cents a gallon, or the time they got fired, or when they fell in love for the first time. And with every story told, something heals, something releases. You see, telling your story is not just about preserving memories. It's about making meaning from them. It's about honoring the path that brought you here, even the parts that were messy. Especially the parts that were messy. One woman once told me, "I finally started writing down what happened when I was younger. Not because it was easy. It wasn't. But because I realized I couldn't carry it quietly anymore." Her story, once hidden, became a doorway to self-forgiveness. And through writing it, she began to feel free. The happiest retirees also understand it's never too late to make peace with the past. That might mean forgiving yourself for choices you made, or forgiving someone else who hurt you. It might mean finally speaking the truth, or simply accepting that you did the best you could with what you knew then. Sharing your story doesn't require an audience. Sometimes, the most powerful conversations are the ones you have with yourself, or with God, or with a photograph from 50 years ago. Other times, it's about opening your heart to a loved one and saying, "I want you to know this part of me." When you tell your story, you take ownership of it. It stops being something that happened to you and starts becoming something you understand, something you survived, and maybe even something you grew from. It's a quiet kind of strength to say, "Yes, this is where I've been, and I'm still here." So don't hide your story. Don't wait for someone to ask. You are a living library filled with wisdom, with pain, with laughter, and with lessons the world needs. Tell your story, even if your voice shakes. And in the telling, you may just find the peace you've been searching for all along. Number 7, they start over, even when it seems too late. There's a quiet, stubborn myth that sneaks into our minds as we age. The idea that we've run out of time to begin again. That new chapters are for the young. That dreams, risks, love, change, all of that belongs to people in their 20s or 30s. But the happiest retirees, they prove that myth wrong every single day. They start over, boldly, gently, sometimes slowly, sometimes all at once, but always with the deep belief that as long as you're breathing, it's not too late to start again. And starting over can take many forms. It could be learning something entirely new, taking up painting, learning the piano, joining a writing class, or mastering a smartphone after years of avoiding it. Not because they need to, but because they want to feel alive again. For others, starting over means moving to a new city, downsizing into a cozy apartment, or even moving closer to grandkids. It can be scary, yes, but it's also freeing. A chance to reinvent what home feels like. Some start over by opening their hearts again. After loss, after heartbreak, after decades of being just fine on their own, they dare to fall in love again. With a new person, a pet, a new routine, or even a part of themselves they thought had gone quiet. One man I met, age 76, told me he always wanted to write poetry but never had the time. When I retired, I gave myself permission, he said. Now he self-publishes one poem a month, just for the joy of it. Not to impress, just to express. Another woman in her late 60s started hiking after her husband passed. She'd never done it before, but one day she put on her old sneakers and walked to a trail near her home. "I didn't know what I was doing," she said, "but I knew I needed something new." That first walk became the beginning of a whole new life. Starting over doesn't mean forgetting who you were. It means honoring who you are now. It means refusing to let fear make your world smaller. It means saying, I'm still here, and I'm not done yet. And sure, you might not have the same energy you had at 25, but you have something more powerful: perspective, resilience, wisdom, and the kind of courage that only comes from having lived through storms and still standing. There is no expiration date on becoming more yourself, so go ahead. Begin again. Start over, even if your hands tremble, even if no one else understands, even if it's quiet and simple. The happiest retirees know the last chapter can still be the most meaningful one. So maybe you're sitting there thinking about your own life, the days behind you, the years ahead. Maybe you've done some of these things already. Maybe others feel far away, like they belong to someone braver, someone freer. But let me tell you this, as someone who's listened to hundreds of stories from people just like you, it's not too late. It's not too late to forgive, not too late to laugh louder, to try something new, to let go of what you were never meant to carry this long. It's not too late to become softer or stronger or simpler. It's not too late to live more honestly, more quietly, more fully. You don't need permission from the world. The years you've lived have already earned you the right to live the next ones on your own terms. If retirement is a chapter, then let it be the one where you stop shrinking and start expanding. Not in busyness, but in meaning. Not in perfection, but in peace. And if there's one thing I hope you carry with you after this video, it's this: your life is still unfolding. You are not done growing, and the best days aren't behind you. They're still waiting, quietly, patiently, just around the corner. Thank you for spending this time with me. If this message touched you in any way, maybe share it with someone you care about. You never know who's quietly searching for hope, just like you were. Until next time, take care of yourself. You matter more than you know.